Part 1. The Genesis of Algernon and the Charter Folly, 1604 through 1637. The establishment of the claimed, utterly unrecognized, and profoundly dull Kingdom of Veridia traces its obscure origins back to the acquisition of a falsified royal charter in 1604 by Lord Protector Algernon Pendergast, a figure whose legacy is defined less by his supposed power and more by his meticulous yet pointless dedication to minor details. Algernon was a man of meager standing in England, possessing a third-generation link to a minor, long-dissolved baronetcy, and an overinflated sense of entitlement that vastly exceeded his actual wealth or influence. The Charter, an elaborate piece of legal fiction allegedly granted by King James I, laid claim to a massive, ill-defined stretch of North American territory, encompassing all lands westward of the Great Merrimack River, stretching to the Lake of the Iroquois, and bounded northward by the forests of New France. The specific boundaries were intentionally vague, a convenience that Algernon often cited in his voluminous yet unread personal correspondence as proof of divine favor for infinite expansion, though in reality it simply meant he had no idea where he was going. Algernon's arrival in the Veridian territory near modern-day Bennington, Vermont, in 1605 was not one of grand fanfare, but rather a miserable, mosquito-ridden affair involving 7 extremely disgruntled indentured servants, a perpetually confused chaplain named Bartholomew, and nearly 40 crates of unnecessary silk vestments and ceremonial silver spoons. The construction of the royal seat, a single, drafty log structure laughably named the Citadel of Perpetual Majesty, took 18 months longer than planned, due to Algernon's insistence that the orientation of the structure align perfectly with the autumnal equinox, a calculation he had performed using a slightly cracked astrolabe and a surprising amount of guesswork. During this initial phase, the primary administrative act of the Crown was the issuance of Royal Edict 4B, which mandated a specific, highly regulated shade of lavender be used for the interior wall hangings, a shade that was impossible to reproduce with the available natural pigments, leading to 3 years of bureaucratic infighting over the precise definition of acceptably subdued violet. King Algernon I, his self-proclaimed, utterly ignored title, spent his entire reign from 1605 to 1637 preoccupied with the minutiae of courtly etiquette that had no application in the harsh New England wilderness. His official court records maintained sporadically by the increasingly depressed Chaplain Bartholomew, document hundreds of pages devoted to procedural disputes. The correct sequence for presenting a toasted piece of rye bread to the king, issue number 1618-9-C, the maximum decibel level permissible during a cough in the royal presence, edict 1621-E, and the exact required number of decorative tassels on the king's ceremonial bootlaces, decree 1625-A. The Royal Navy, which Algernon envisioned as a fleet dominating the Great Lakes, consisted solely of a single leaky canoe named the Sovereign Triumph, which was used exclusively for catching small, unimpressive fish in the nearby creek. The geopolitical reality of the situation that the local indigenous communities treated Algernon as a harmless, slightly eccentric curiosity, and the other European colonies had no knowledge of his existence, did nothing to temper his zeal for pointless governance. The official ledger from 1630 meticulously detailed the inventory of 14 separate writing quills, each categorized by feather type, link, and suitability for drafting documents of varying levels of non-importance. The final years of Algernon I were marked by the drafting of his most useless piece of legislation, the Protocol of Ceremonial Footwear and Associated Cobbling Ordinances, 1635. A 280-page document that detailed the necessary permits, licenses, and inspection protocols required for any subject, of which there were still only 7, to have a piece of leather affixed to their shoe. Algernon's death in 1637 was sadly rather anticlimactic, reportedly occurring after a minor paper cut from a poorly indexed land deed led to a low-grade fever, which his elaborate, heavy velvet nightclothes exacerbated. His legacy was the foundation of an unparalleled tradition of administrative tedium. Part 2. The Reign of Reginald I and the Gluten Structure, 1637 through 1681. Algernon's successor, his only surviving son, Prince Reginald, ascended the imaginary throne as King Reginald I in the autumn of 1637. Unlike his father's fascination with draperies and etiquette, Reginald was driven by a single, all-consuming, and equally tedious passion: cereal grain structure and the pursuit of the perfect mold-resistant rye bread. His coronation was celebrated not with feasting or public address, but with the immediate publication of his seminal, if profoundly specialized work, the Regalian Treatise on Gluten Structure and the Proper Hydrolytic Management of Starch Molecules, 1638. This 400-page monograph written in a dry, academic tone that bored even the moss growing on the citadel walls, was declared required reading for all Veridian subjects, a mandate that ensured that no subject ever actually read it. King Reginald I's 44-year tenure was a relentless stream of failed economic projects and obsessive data collection. His attempts to establish a royal mint were disastrous. He imported a heavy, rusty hand press from Flanders at an exorbitant cost, paid for with the remaining 3 barrels of salted cod, and spent 3 years trying to standardize the copper alloy. The resulting currency, the Veridia,